It is a piece of pale ivory linen with various slightly darker markings. Is it really the image of Jesus Christ moments after his crucifixion, as many believe? Since the 1400s, the shroud has been taken out of its silver box many times, draped over balconies for royal weddings, and stared at in wonder by countless pilgrims. The shroud first appeared in Europe in 1355. It was well known during the worst years of the Black Death, when huge crowds stood in line to see it, when Gutenberg perfected the printing press, and when Columbus discovered America. In an age short on scientific tools, in which forgeries were commonplace, the question of the shroud's authenticity could not really be resolved. The public generally assumed the shroud was authentic, but the debate between science and religion was just getting underway. In 1898, the church permitted examination of the cloth by the impersonal eye of a rather new invention, the camera. No one could have expected that the photograph Segundo Pia took that day would change forever the way people saw the shroud. For as the photographer's glass plate emerged from the developing solution, he saw a face, a distinct, clear face, unlike anything ever seen before on the shroud. He understood at once that the shadowy image on the cloth had been a negative, and that he was now looking at a positive. He held in his hands an image that would launch a century of scientific investigation.
When Segundo Pia makes this photograph, he almost dropped the plate. It scared him because he said, "My God, I was looking into the face of the Lord." That's when he realized that the image on the cloth is a negative. The lights and darks are reversed from what we're used to seeing.
For the first time, people could clearly see the body on the shroud as a positive image. The photograph displayed details that were invisible to the naked eye. It triggered an uproar.
He's immediately accused of fraud, immediately accused of cheating, lying, and manipulating this. It's a fake. And it wasn't until 1931 when Giuseppe Henriet is allowed to photograph the shroud for the second time, gets the same results, of course. The world of science suddenly looks at the shroud and says, well, wait a minute, maybe we should look at this closer.
As to what might have caused the image, the scientists ruled out possibility after possibility.
Microanalysis of the threads that were brought back determined that the color change of the threads was due to a chemical change, dehydrated oxidation. But we do not know what caused that chemical change.
The stains on the cloth are remarkably subtle and complex. One fiber will be discolored, while an adjacent one is not. Yet each fiber is only 1/10 the diameter of a human hair. And in some places, the image only penetrates to 1/500th of an inch. There is no known way of replicating such markings on a cloth. Most experts are now convinced that the image was not painted. In the search to understand how it was created, scientists placed it under a machine called the VP-8 image analyzer, a unique device used by NASA to interpret photographs from space.
If we place a perfectly normal young man's picture under the VP,
any two-dimensional image, such as a photograph or a painting, will not be read properly. The shape of the original object will appear distorted.
the hair, which we know to be over the brow, is actually sunken because it's darker, whereas the face, the cheeks, are actually elevated because they're lighter.
A photograph of the shroud should be distorted as well. But it isn't. When this image was seen for the first time, scientists were amazed. It was perhaps as dramatic a moment as when Segundo Pia saw the negative image of the shroud for the first time.
We notice that the nose is above the cheeks and that the face is of the proper dimension. The beard and the hair.
The VP8 analysis was a breakthrough, establishing that the image was formed while the cloth was draped over a three-dimensional object.
If what I am told by physicists is correct, it's a projected image. And in other words, it's almost as though the body were floating in the middle of the cloth and all of the projection comes off at right angles to the body.
This image is directly collimated from the body. That is, it's parallel to gravity. This is so unique that it has to be explained as a radiation phenomena.
And as we rotate back,
Radiation may be the only way to explain recent findings that the image is like an X-ray, revealing internal structures of the body.
we are seeing the bones, the metacarpals, here. Even more striking, as we shift up to the wrist area and rotate back and forth, looking here, we can identify the individual wrist bones on the Shroud of Turin. We see skeletal features in the depth of the body consistent with some type of X-radiation. And so we feel that the image, other than the direct contact from blood and so forth, is basically formed by this remarkable and unique situation of radiation.
Superimposing a skull over the face of the shroud reveals internal structures with remarkable clarity.
We can see that we are seeing the images of teeth here. As we shift back and forth, we can see on the shroud, here are the teeth, roots and all.
And what is the source of the radiation? Some researchers feel they have the answer to that one too.
I believe this image is on the cloth because of the transformation that occurred during the resurrection. The body transferred from one medium to another, and in so doing, it left a recoil. And it's just such a recoil of particles radiating from the body that marked the image on the shroud.
That's why we get the three-dimensional effect and other things. What does that? I don't know. Let alone, how do you get that kind of energy out of a corpse?